Our top story, it is time to open this country right away. Now, this is the cover of the New York Post tomorrow. It reads, "The Big Apple is dying. Its streets are empty. Tens of thousands have been plunged into poverty. Our leaders have no plan, no answers. New Yorkers have already learned to social distance. Businesses can adjust. The elderly and sick can continue to be isolated, but it needs to end now." Here's my prediction. New York City, New York State leaders, so-called leaders, they will not listen until it's too late. Grab your wallets if you live in New York. You're about to get robbed. They are going to rob you because they'll never be able to get their way out of this mess they created. And by the way, the writing is already on the wall. Look at this new study. J.P. Morgan first reporting CNBC. Infection rates have declined and not increased in states where lockdowns have ended, end quote. In the absence of conclusive data, these lockdowns were justified initially, but millions of lives were being destroyed with little consideration that the lockdowns might not only cause economic devastation, but potentially more deaths than COVID-19 itself. Now, these endless one-size-fits-all lockdown orders, like the governor of Michigan, they need to end now, right now. We know how to do this. We know how to do it safely. Americans are screaming to get their freedom and their country back, and they're even willing to wear masks in the appropriate situations. Florida got it right. Texas got it right. And guess what? Now it's time for all the states to follow their lead. And by the way, we can learn from some states that were successful. More importantly, we need to learn from the abject failures, meaning New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Look at your screen. New cases in Florida are now down 14% since their reopening. New cases in Georgia down by 12%. Look at this chart. Tens of thousands more people lost their lives in New York than in Florida. Tens of thousands. Thousands more died in New Jersey. Thousands more died in Michigan. Thousands more in Pennsylvania. What happened? Okay, this is where we learn from the dumb ideas and the dumb policies that were made in the middle of Corona. Started in New York, March 25th. Remember, Florida went out of its way to get COVID-19 patients out of nursing homes, protecting the most vulnerable and the elderly population of that state. In New York, March 25th. In New Jersey, I believe they did it March 29th. Pennsylvania, not to be outdone, they did it on April the 6th. Michigan just screwed everything up from the beginning. They all forced nursing homes and long-term care facilities to take in COVID-19 patients where there were no COVID-19 patients. This policy became a death sentence for many elderly people in all of these states and facilities. This was a literal death sentence. Did they do it on purpose? No, I don't think they did it on purpose. Did they do it because they're stupid? Yeah, that's a big part of the reason. They have executive orders, all these mandates in these 4 states, for example, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Those dumb policies killed thousands of patients. And the mob and the media, by the way, you owe Governor DeSantis a huge apology because you accused him of wanting to kill Grandma because he opened Florida's beaches. Grandma wasn't going to the beach in her bikini. Grandma was sheltering in place because he already sent his National Guard and every state agency to every elderly care facility and nursing home in the villages. So they were preparing the whole time. Guess what? They weren't wrong. Others were. Take a look.
Florida has the absolute best data, so any insinuation otherwise is just typical partisan narrative trying to be spun. And part of the reason is that because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. We've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption.
So now going forward, we've learned a very hard lesson. If you protect the elderly, we can save their lives. If you don't, then they will die. More people will die. Let's do the right thing. We've learned lessons. Now, we've got to protect those, by the way, with health problems. We also need to learn as we reopen from those who never stop going to work. You know, they're not talking about reopening medical manufacturing centers. Farmers are not talking about reopening. Packers are not talking about reopening. Truckers are not talking about reopening. The guys that stocked all the shelves in New York are not talking about reopening. Those that work in drugstores in New York and Long Island, they're not talking about reopening because they never closed. People in the food, medical supply chains, they wore masks and they wore gloves and other PPE. And guess what? All the people I've surveyed and all the stores I go to, nobody contracted COVID-19. And they kept their states like New York alive. If those people all stopped working, New Yorkers would have starved to death. Nobody would be able to work in any hospital. They kept the shelves full. The medical equipment kept pouring into New York every single day. So we learned from that success. We also learned from failure. It's now time to reopen. Now, sadly, Pelosi probably seemingly wants to drag this shutdown on as long as possible. Remember her motto, never let a good crisis go to waste. And as we speak, she is literally, really very busy with two important tasks. One, she's writing another massive socialist spending bill that will never become law. Number two, she's obsessively raging about all things Donald Trump. Take a look.
You're asking me about the appropriateness of the actions of this president of the United States? So completely inappropriate in so many ways that it's almost a given. It's like a child who comes in with mud on their pants or something. That's the way it is. They're outside playing. That's what he comes in with doggy do on his shoes, and everybody who works with him has that on their shoes, too.
Now, the 80-year-old Pelosi almost makes Joe Biden seem coherent by comparison, almost. What if we start commenting on her looks the way she's now commenting on other people's looks? I wonder how well that will go over in the mob and the media. And by the way, where do we begin? Pelosi is now using this crisis to funnel money to some of her favorites. $1 trillion, a blue state bailout, as we've been discussing. By the way, you Senate Republicans, you House Republicans, Secretary Mnuchin, Larry Kudlow, who will join us tonight, all of you, do not give them one single penny. Fiscally responsible states are not responsible to bail out the fiscally irresponsible states. Call your senators, for everybody watching tonight, and your congressmen and women, and tell them no way. No bailouts unless it's COVID-19, and that's it. And if they don't want to open up at some point, they've got to pay for it, not the rest of the country. Pelosi also wants protections for the marijuana industry. Say no to that. She wants money for illegal immigrants. Say no to that. Say hell no. She wants to change voting laws. A double hell no. And get this, Planned Parenthood has already received $80 million in federal stimulus funds. Planned Parenthood also launched a $45 million political arm to defeat Republicans and President Trump in 2020. I don't think we the people, the taxpayers, should be bailing out Planned Parenthood when they're spending $45 million on political ads, even though they say they will be returning the $80 million. Good, finally. But are you connecting the dots here? Essentially, Planned Parenthood spending a fortune to elect Democrats. And until they got caught, they wanted we, the people, to pay for it all. And one of the de facto leaders of the Democratic Party, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, is now facing a new wave of criticism. Now, remember, she killed off all those Amazon jobs that wanted to move into her district, high-paying jobs, career jobs for people. Well, the job losses are now piling up post-COVID-19 in New York, all while Amazon, they're hiring hundreds of thousands.